Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of the Interview Specialist. Today, we have a very special guest that has a very seasoned experience. Kris, please introduce yourself.
Hi there. My name is Kris. I'm a registered nurse and also currently a MBA candidate at the University of Windsor.
Awesome. So let's start from the very beginning when you first entered the University of Windsor as a human kinetics student. So, what inspired you to pursue that degree?
Yeah. So when I growing up, I was a big athlete. I grew up playing hockey, soccer, volleyball, badminton, tennis, a little bit of everything, a little bit of a mixed bag. I really wanted to get involved in sport in some degree. In high school, I did a lot of like the sciences and whatnot, and I found myself getting more and more interested in sport medicine. And so coming out of high school, I attended the University of Windsor to get my Bachelor of Human Kinetics with a emphasis on movement science. My original goal was to be a student, was to be an athletic therapist. So whenever you see a football game or a hockey game, those individuals that come running out whenever there's a player injury, that's what I wanted to be. And so going through my Bachelor of Human Kinetics, I was actually able to do a student position, become a student athletic therapist, and I got to work with the men's volleyball team at the University of Windsor for 2 years. It was an amazing time. I had a lot of great memories from that. Got to travel around all over the province to different universities and whatnot, and I got to get firsthand experience of what that was. I was always I needed hands-on learning. That's how I do it. That's what I learned best from my time there. And then after all was said and done, it was in my fourth year, and I wasn't quite sure about the athletic therapy at that point, and so I felt, what can I do that's very practical, very hands-on, that I can do to help people. And nursing was the clear answer for me at that point. So I knew I didn't want to do another 4 year bachelor's degree. I wanted to do something bit shorter in time, just because I wanted to get my career started up. So I actually came across compressed or accelerated nursing degrees. And so the one that really excited me was McMaster University's accelerated um, Bachelor of Science in Nursing. It's a 20-month program. It was very quick, but very intense, which I really liked. It was 5 semesters straight through. And so I went to McMaster to do that. Really like the degree or like the program itself, and I got so many different opportunities. I worked in 5 different hospitals over my entire length of placements for that. Once I got done there, then I had to start my career after I got my registration. And so I started out working out for Sinai Grace Hospital in Detroit, Michigan. I worked on their orthopedic and trauma surgery floor. Uh, and it was much right up my alley because I was like, oh, okay, I get to work with broken bones, people had like accidents, whatnot. I can help out in that sense, whatnot. So when I started, it was a lengthy process to get my visa and whatnot. And so I started in November of 2019. And so obviously, not too long after, we had the pandemic in the March of 2020. So I only had 4 months of normalcy, and then everything went haywire from there. So I stayed with the hospital for a couple months after the pandemic got started. It was very intense. Not a lot of great memories from that time, just because everything was so chaotic, and there was a lot of negative results that came out of some patient circumstances and whatnot. It was tough. We were lacking knowledge, we were lacking staffing, and we were lacking just leadership because we didn't know what we were working with. We didn't know what ways to go, and we had a lot of question marks, but we did the best we could. We pulled from whatever knowledge we had from other respiratory and cardiovascular conditions we had, and kind of utilized that to kind of move forward. Um, After my time with the hospital, I needed a short break from hospital setting. I needed something that was a little bit uh, less acute, and needed like a little bit of a breather. And so I joined satellite camp of hospice in Leamington, Ontario, where I worked for about a year and a half, and I got to enjoy like great time working with palliative patients and whatnot. It was great, very intimate type of work. You work directly with patient family members. You have a whole team behind you. You have your palliative physicians. You have social workers. You have spiritual care consultants. It's a very intimate setting, and I got a lot of great memories out of there. I knew my time had come where I needed to get back into the swing of things in a hospital, and that's where what landed me at Windsor Regional Hospital, where I got to work on the telemetry unit at the OLEP campus. Wonderful experience. I can't say enough about the staff there and the managers on the floor, our clinical practice managers and our operations managers, and our cardiac education specialists as well. Like there was just such a great floor.
Awesome.
Fantastic physicians and nurse practitioners, and yeah, it was a great time. I learned a lot. Loved cardiac when I was in nursing, so it was a great chance for me to kind of explore that specialty.
Awesome. So going back to human kinetics, what was your typical day as a student athletic therapist?
Oh, as a student athletic therapist,
Yeah.
yeah. So basically, the typical day was brought. It was twofold. It was practices and games. So for practices, I'd show up about an hour early. Some guys would have therapy sessions with our head athletic therapist. At that time, it was Kathy Harvey, I believe. I believe that's from where I remember. And yeah, I would stand by. I would kind of watch as the therapy session would go on. If there was ways that I could assist, I'd assist with that. And then during the practice time, I would just kind of take a back seat. I would watch over the athletes. If anything were to happen, I'd obviously jump into the mix. But practices were a little bit more slower pace, so it was a bit easier. But then after practices, I'd get whatever types of therapy tools that the athletes would need, whether that be like ice or stretching bands or rollers, whatever they kind of need, I'd be there to provide them with. And then game days, I'd have a full pack with me of different therapy supplies with me. And if it's a home game, it's easier because I know where everything is. But away games, it's a bit tougher because you have to talk with the other therapist. But everyone was very welcoming and whatnot. So I was able to get a lot of different experience of how to navigate through not just home games but away games as well, and how that kind of works and being like different environments.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
And what teams did you work with?
Just the men's volleyball team at the University of Windsor. So that's so James Gravel was the head coach for them, and actually they just competed for the Forsyth Cup. So we were all watching and hoping that we get a better
Oh,
result.
nice.
But it's such a great team and so well run. But yeah, him and his staff were so great to me. So many great memories I can pull away from those times.
Oh, perfect. And going forward to nursing, so during nursing school, what was the most rotation that you kind of liked? Like, what specialty were you most into?
The specialty I was most into. So it's funny. So at the time, I was very throughout nursing school. I was very much so. I want to be somewhere where it's not too intense. I wasn't really crazy into like an ICU placement or even a step down placement for that matter. So I was like, if I can get a geriatric rehab unit, like that's where I'm set. I ended up doing that for my first what was that called? Preceptor placement? I think something like that. Yeah, preceptorship placements. So I did that first. I liked it, but I could see where I would like the what's the word, like the routine from it. But then when I did my second and my final placement, my second preceptor placement, I was on a clinical teaching unit. For those that don't know what a clinical teaching unit is, it's just basically your run-of-the-mill medicine unit where you get a little bit of everything, different conditions. You could have someone with congestive heart failure in one sense, and someone else coming in from a fresh, just had a fresh stroke or whatnot. So there's a bunch of different things we could run into. I was that kind of introduced me into like a more acute setting. And after all was said and done, I think that was the one that I really got the most out of, and I really appreciated the most. Um, I was nervous about being in an acute setting, and I think that's why I was more content with the rehab at first. But over my time, as I grew, not just as a nursing student, but as an actual registered nurse, I grew more comfortable in my settings and was ready for that next step. Was ready for it to take on more acuity and felt more confident in myself, because that's a big thing. Is it's hard to imagine yourself in those situations until you built yourself a foundation beforehand. Once you get that foundation of skills, knowledge, just overall experience, then you can get to that next stage of, okay, I'm ready for the next step. Like, where can I go from here?
Awesome. And why did you choose nursing in particular over other professional schools?
Why did I choose nursing as a career? Gotcha. So the first thing that kind of led me to that. So I have an uncle who kind of took a similar path to myself. He had done a human kinetics degree, and then after his human kinetics degree, he got his nursing degree, and and now and then over time he worked as a nurse. Then he moved over to the private side of healthcare, where he worked in with pharmaceuticals afterwards. And so I was like, okay, like I could see myself doing that, like somewhere where I can move over from going from taking my human kinetics knowledge, applying it to a practical healthcare bit like profession, and then taking that and moving on to like the private side of healthcare, like pharmaceuticals or medical technology. So that's kind of what led me to that. But over time, I just kind of thought of it more so, and I really um, was quite proud. What's the word? I looked up to what nurses do and what how knowledgeable they were of whatnot.
Awesome. And what's the reason you decided to pursue an MBA, Masters of Business Administration, let's say over like a master's in nursing or becoming a nurse practitioner?
So so for myself, how do I best put this? Nurse practitioner was not really in the cards for me. I just didn't see myself in that role. Just because the nurse practitioner, they do such great work, but there's only so much they can do for a single patient because they have so many patients that they have to look after. I really didn't want to get away from that more of like an intimate role. And I feel like being a nurse practitioner, it's a great role. You can still have those opportunities. However, I just couldn't see that being something I could do, especially with the way that I work and how I worked as a bedside nurse. Um, Masters of Nursing, I feel like it would be a lot more research based. And if you know me, you know I'm not a research person. It's just not something I'm super passionate about. And I don't think I could will myself to write a research paper. I do like the fun stuff. I'd like the field data, but after that, it'd be tough goings. And so doing an MBA, I felt it was one way in which I could combine um, my nurse, me being a registered nurse, and become a real powerful prospect or candidate for a lot of different companies, and not just healthcare companies. I could be seen by, let's say a bank, as someone who deals with a lot of like problem solving issues and has to be very knowledgeable about like operations and how things work and are managed, that they could see me and be like, this person comes with not only like healthcare background and being having that experience, but also like a business background. We could 100% take this person, drop them, and they'd succeed. So that's where I kind of saw myself with an MBA. Where I could see it taking me, I'm very open to it. I could be in healthcare, I could not be in healthcare, but at the end of the day, it's about taking the skills that you learned from your previous degrees and your previous work experience and applying those towards your next step. It might not be the same setting that you worked in, but you could have similar problems too. Well, I got to solve this problem for this situation, or I got to be able to micromanage or juggle all these different tasks all at once, and you have to be knowledgeable about each one, because when a director or a VP comes and asks you about them, you have to be on the ball, you have to be ready to go. Just like if a doctor or nurse practitioner is going to ask you what's going on with your patient, you got to be very knowledgeable and be right on the ball. So I think that's why I chose being an MBA instead of going into a master's of nursing or doing a nurse practitioner. I have friends from my previous program that are doing both of those, and they're really meant for that. I just never personally saw myself in that kind of situation.
Oh, awesome. And what are some advices you would like to give for high school students and even for undergraduate students who graduated from a program and like they're not really happy about the program they did, they would like to career change or switch into another profession?
Hmm. So high school students and university grads.
Yeah.
So I'm going to answer that in two different folds. Then I'll start off with high school students. For high school students, I think the best advice I could give is don't don't go into a program because you feel that's the right thing to do. Don't go into something because you feel that's the norm that you should be attesting to. Go into something that you're passionate in. If you don't like it, or if it's not working out the way you can, there's always so many opportunities for you to change over and make that change. But don't go into something just because someone said, well, this is the right way to go. I'm not going to play on any professions or whatnot, but I've seen many people personally, I've seen friends that have done one program because parents, family, teachers told them they'd be really good in there, or that's what they should be doing. They come out and they're not happy with their job, and they end up just either just flunking out of the program, or they're immediately switching right out of school, and they're not really applying what they just used. And university degrees and college degrees both not are not inexpensive things. So if you're going to make that decision, it's not necessary that you have to make the right one right away, but you need to take some time and really reflect on, is this for me, or am I doing this for someone else? And in my philosophy, going back from what I did, not to say that I ever did it, but seeing what other people have done, I believe you should always just follow your passion and follow your heart of as to what you really want to do. In terms of university grads, is it more so? Are you asking more so what if they are not liking the type of program they came out of, or the type of field that they're in?
Yeah, exactly. So basically, some university graduates, like when they graduate from a program and like they find that that program they graduate with doesn't have that many career opportunities, which they thought it does. So they start
Mhm.
thinking of going into another program or maybe just get some work experience in another field, which is not related to the program they graduate from.
So I would really recommend doing the latter. Go into something that you're interested in, but it doesn't have to be super specific. For example, or just if you have, or let's say for example, so let's say I have a nursing degree. I don't really want to be a nurse. I can take the skills I learned within my nursing degree and apply it to a different job. This could be in sales, or operations. This could be in something completely separate. But the main thing is you have to be willing to take what you had learned from your nursing degree, whether it be skills or knowledge or just general like nursing topics, and apply that to the job that you're applying for. So if somebody asks you in an interview, or asks me in an interview, well, you're applying for a sales position, or you're applying for, I don't know, like an operations position. What skills do you have to offer when you're in that position? You could say, well, as a nurse, like I really had to learn how to problem solve and put out fires at being a registered nurse. Situations can happen really quickly, and patients could take a downturn in a hurry. So you have to be willing to think on your feet and be able to work really and be really on top of your game. So taking situations and skills like that and applying it towards whatever you're you're interviewing for, whatever job you're within, is the most important thing. Because although maybe you're not working in the same environment or industry that you were in school for, but every bit of education you have is A, showing that you are able to learn, and B, it all has skills that you can apply in some sort of way. It might be a backdoor way of how you're using those skills, but those skills are still there. But a university degree and a college degree is only as valuable as the skills you're willing to take and apply to the next step. Because if you don't, if I was a mathematician and I don't use any math and I don't even take anything away from that math degree to my next job, I didn't really do much with it. So it's just a matter of finding creative ways to apply those skills that you use and applying it to the next steps.
Awesome. So yeah, basically acquiring those transferable skills and applying them to your new career or to your new field that you're interested in.
Yeah. And a lot of
Awesome.
people, when they see that you have a university or a university degree or college diploma, excuse me, and a lot of times they just see that you know how to learn and you're willing to learn. So,
Yeah, and you have the commitment and dedication to like to commit to that degree.
of course.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much for those insightful advices, and thank you for sharing your journey with us, and thank you for being a guest speaker.
Yeah, no problem. No problem. Really appreciate being here. This is great.
Thank you.